Hi, hello, and welcome. We are back at Brown's training camp. I'm Aditi Kinkhabwala. I'm with Nathan Zegura. And Nathan, this is the first time all camp that I'm not drenched in sweat.
It's nice. The weather is favoring us today. It's nice and cool here. We got some cloud cover. The humidity mostly gone. The midges seem to be gone. So it's a win right now.
Oh, especially if there are going to be thunderstorms in Jacksonville on Friday night. Kevin Stefanski has been saying that the 90-degree temperatures have been good preparation, but now we've got some wind.
Oh, we got some wind here.
Which is
That's
good for
right.
Cade York.
It is.
Which
Good
we'll
for-
get to at some point. Okay. Before we get into everything we have to offer on this show, we've had some highlight moments here. John Johnson with a lovely pick of Deshaun Watson, and then Grant Telpett, his fellow safety, being a little bit abused by David Njoku on this beautiful catch right behind us and setting off these fans on this side. Not so great news was seeing Jakeem Grant go off on a cart, actually. It didn't look like he could put any weight on his left leg, and as he was taken off that cart, he was holding his head in his hands, and he's been a key pickup for this team thus far.
Mike Prefer was thrilled to get Jakeem Grant in here, and why wouldn't he be? A guy's got a return touchdown in each of the last 4 seasons, 6 total in his career, Pro Bowl returner, and that's something the Browns have really been trying to get going in that third phase is the return game. And now that didn't look good. And you will hope, we'll knock on some wood here, that it is not serious, but it didn't look good. And so the Browns would go kind of back to what they had last year, which was Schwartz and Felton in the return game.
Well, and I did have an opportunity, actually, to talk to Demetric Felton today. Here's an interesting fact. Now, he started high school as a wide receiver. Then they needed him in the running back room, so he played running back for 2 years. Then Jim Mora at UCLA recruited him to be a wide receiver, which he played for 2 years. But then again, UCLA needed help at running back, so he was playing running back. A year ago, he was the running back and was asked to go into the wide receiver room. This year, he's been exclusively in the wide receiver room, although today he is getting some reps for the first time all camp at running back. I asked him, which room is more fun? What do you think he said?
Well, he does when he comes back to the running back room. At least last year, they would give him a really hard time, so I think he liked the receiver room more. But maybe now he likes to go back with the running backs.
He did say that this year the running back room is actually a little bit more fun because the wide receiver room's tone is set by Amari Cooper.
It's probably very serious. You're right. Yeah. Whereas a
Serious,
year ago, it would have been
businesslike.
Odell and Jarvis setting the tone, which probably was a good time for everybody.
In any case, that's another opportunity for Felton. He's gotten all these opportunities at slot receiver because of injuries, such as to Mike Woods, to Anthony Schwartz, to David Bell, although Schwartz and Bell are back. And you just made a comment about something that Schwartz did.
Yeah, he had a nice catch on a pass from Jacoby Brissett, and that's big. You know, you talked about today's practice. You know, Demetric, you're mentioning getting some time with the running backs. Nick Chubb's getting a day off. So is Donovan Peoples-Jones. And so this is a receiver room that I think is under some scrutiny. And Anthony Schwartz and David Bell, 2 third-round picks in the last 2 drafts. These are guys you're counting on to step up, and they're going to get a lot of opportunities here today. So it's good to see Schwartz make a play because he had a rough Sunday. So it's good to see him get back out there and make a play today.
And not just today, because, again, this is the final full practice before the team gets on the plane tomorrow to head to Jacksonville. You get the first game action, the first real, actual live hitting.
That's right.
We have a great show that's all about the offensive line. But before we get into all of that and before we break down what we're watching on the field, any quick thoughts on what you're hoping to see out of this game Friday night?
Well, number one, I want everybody to stay healthy. I don't want to have to talk about anybody that we think is going to be a significant piece of the Browns' puzzle getting hurt. But I think you're looking for some clarity on certain things. And how are the quarterbacks going to be used? Josh Dobbs and Josh Rosen. I thought Rosen had a good Saturday. I thought Dobbs came back and had a great day on Sunday. So that was great to see for him. How do they perform in this situation? Then who emerges in this wide receiver room? If we're staying on the offense side of the ball, who says, I'm making plays, you need to give me more opportunities? Because I think that room with Woods down, with Donovan Peoples-Jones, just getting a day off. But it's a room that's a little bit of flux, and it's unproven in a lot of ways.
Right. Fair enough. And what about on defense, that interior defensive line? I'm a little bit curious about that, especially since this is the first live action, and all we keep hearing about those young guys is their physicality, their aggression. We'll see if Myles Garrett wrecks somebody else's line, as he has been over.
We know what he can do. And listen, I will defer, as always, to Kevin Stefanski, who so deftly handled the media today when he said, I can't tell you guys what we're doing on Friday. I haven't told the team. And it was pointed out to him, but you're not talking to us again. So he said, dang, I didn't even realize that. Sad. Narrator. I believe he realized that. I believe he was quite aware of that.
You know what? This is one of Kevin Stefanski's superpowers. He can not answer a question. He can basically tell you to go away. but he still leaves you smiling.
He still makes you feel good about it. Andrew Barry does the same thing. Both of those guys masters at not giving away anything they don't want to give away, but not making you feel bad about it on the other end.
Right. Or as Chase Winovich said to me earlier today when I asked him about the NASCAR package, about potentially seeing 3 or 4 defensive ends together on that front, said, you'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, they have not busted that out at training camp yet. That will be a part of what the Browns do.
Well, maybe later on we'll see it when we're live and
great.
taking some practice footage. But in any case, we are going to get to some live footage, I think. As much as I like looking at you on camera, I imagine our viewers would like to see some footage.
Yeah, and we're going through some special team stuff right now, and that's kind of the natural flow of practice. You get that perimeter early team period, and then you'll get some special teams work, which at least it's behind us. So you are looking at us, but you can also look over our shoulders and see some action out there on the football field.
You know, we did talk, I'm interrupting you, and I apologize, Nathan, but we did talk about what could happen in the return game and how that's been sort of a missing element for the Browns.
Yeah.
When was the last time they had a return for a touchdown?
So for a kick return touchdown, it would be 2009. Josh Cribbs did it twice in that game against Kansas City in December, and the last punt return was Week 2, 2015 against Tennessee. Travis Benjamin, the Rabbit.
You didn't know that I was going to ask you that. By the way, he did not have
not
time
know.
to prepare for that. He just knew it off the top of his head. Well, we've obviously talked about that piece of it, but you know what else has been an area of the game that's been lacking a little bit for the Browns of late? Kicker.
Doesn't look like that's going to be a problem anymore. I know it's only training camp, but Cade York's been very impressive, Aditi.
Very impressive on multiple fronts. First of all, I think that he's only missed 1 kick all of training camp. I may be wrong, but I believe I've only seen 1 miss. More important, I love his moxie. This young man has so much personality. He is not afraid of anything. There he is. You see him. I was talking to him earlier today, actually. He had told me right when he was first drafted that he hoped to play some golf this summer and that he learned how to play guitar. Well, when I asked him, how are those 2 things going, he said, I only played golf once, and I haven't bought the guitar yet. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you know, I've had some work to do. I've been focusing on the job. And he said that he did indeed go out to First Energy Stadium a bit. He got a sense of the winds a little bit there. We all know that that'll pick up as the year goes on, and he'll get plenty of practice for that in Baltimore and in Pittsburgh and even in Cincinnati. That will be a key component of his game. But more than that, he's out here. And he's asked to kick from 60 yards. He's asked to kick from 40 yards so the team can skip some meetings. Whatever the moment is, he steps right up to it. And the other day, he told me Wyatt Teller hauled him up on his shoulders after he made a kick that seemingly canceled meetings. And Cade said, I told those guys, put me down. That was not a good kick. He was that frustrated with the output.
So which was great about this. So that was on Sunday. So we had Browns Live Saturday. I don't think we had one Sunday.
We did not.
It was sweltering. It was as bad as Saturday was. It was worse. It was over 100 in terms of the real feel, as they say in all these fancy apps now. And so he got to kick one from 45 yards. It was good, but barely good. And it would have been good from 80. I mean, he absolutely clobbered it. And he was mad that it wasn't right down the middle, which I love, and that's his pursuit of perfection, and that is part of the moxie. And yes, he did not like it. Wyatt Teller and Anthony Walker Jr. got him on the shoulders as the players were very happy, and he wasn't happy that, it went in great. It wasn't my best ball. I want to hit my A ball out there. But you mentioned the moxie disposition. I mean, that mustache screams moxie. I mean, absolutely. That's a confident young man.
We did have a conversation in a week where Chris Boswell just got a new contract from the Steelers and Justin Tucker got a new extension from the Ravens. And what is the kicking climate and the kicking brethren in the AFC North? We can't forget about Evan McPherson, who, of course, went 14 for 14 in the playoffs for the Bengals as a rookie last year. And, you know, Cade just kind of shrugged and said it's his job to be a part of that group.
He has, and he's got experience, obviously, with Evan McPherson, kicked against him in college. But, you know, one thing you mentioned, Justin Tucker, it's wild to me. He is, and I don't know if you would feel the same way, but if you said anybody who's ever played the game that was a field goal kicker had to make a 50-yarder to save your life, I would pick Justin Tucker.
Sure.
You would as well. And $6 million is a lot. I know it is a lot for a kicker, but it's amazing that it's still relative to other things, and he is absolutely the best of the best. Period. I
mean, and Cade actually made this point to me. He was talking about some signage that he saw, some photo he saw that the Ravens had put together, and it was the Ravens stars. And I don't know exactly if he meant the signage outside the facility or some sort of promotional piece of whatever. And he said, it's Lamar Jackson and Justin Tucker.
Yeah.
And that's because that's how big he is to that team. That's how consequential he is. And as we constantly talk about in the game of football, it's about a fine line between winning and losing, and the Browns unfortunately have not had that consistency at kicker. So let's see what he does in Jacksonville, especially if it's thunderstorming. I won't enjoy that on the sidelines if I'm being poured on. And are you so happy right now that you're up in a booth, Nathan?
Listen, Aditi, I've been through plenty of elements in my tenure here on the sidelines, and yes, that is one thing I don't have to worry about bringing rain gear. I don't have to worry about bringing tundra gear for all those snow games, and we've had some. You go back to, I think it was 2020. We had some wild weather.
Oh,
that's gone.
sorry.
That's all right. Nothing, no big deal.
It's a depth chart. I'm sure you have it memorized
we got
already
it on there.
anyway.
Yep.
Okay, but do you have any advice for me on how you keep the microphone dry?
So they might, if it's really bad, if they have a big windscreen on, they're going to give you, it will be wrapped in a plastic bag.
And then do you talk through the plastic
And then you can
bag?
take that off when you're going to do it. You keep it in your pocket and you take that off when you do it, and then you put it back on. Hopefully it's not going to be that bad.
All right. Well, you are wishing for
I'm
all sorts of good
hoping,
things.
yeah.
Okay, let's take a super quick break here, and then when we
Let's.
come back, we'll talk a little football, and we'll talk a little bit about this offensive line that you are bullish on, aren't you?
Yeah, it's one of the best offensive lines in the league.
Okay, so then there's that. We'll be right back on Browns Live. All right, welcome back to Browns Live. And Nathan, this is perfect. We want to talk about the offensive line today. The last time that we were out, we talked about the DL, and I do believe that we have some big man drills right now.
Yeah,
oh, there we go. It's your man, Jedrick Wills.
Getting
You
a little
just-
one-on-one.
with Myles Garrett, of all people, in that Guardian hat. Of course, this is part of the health and safety initiative that the NFL has made during camp. It has these players wearing these Guardian caps over their helmets. You know, it's funny. I was actually talking to Chase Winovich about how Myles Garrett just blows up every drill. And I said, at any point, does O-line coach Bill Callahan just say, okay, enough already. Just let my guys work?
It's a difficult thing because there are times when he blows things up. And when you heard Kevin Stefanski in his press conference earlier today there was a drill that they did at the end of Sunday's practice that was kind of a end-of-game situation. You had a minute 10 on the clock. You're down 3. You could either get in field goal range for a tie, touchdown for a win, or you didn't make it, and obviously you would lose the game. And they did the twos, 2 offense against 1 defense, 1 offense against 2 defense. And the 2 offense, they ended up getting a field goal, but Myles had about on one, and he had 2 sacks in a row in 3 out of 4 plays, but they just didn't acknowledge that they were sacks. and Stefanski said that in his press today. He's like, we just told them they get to keep playing sometimes.
Oh, well,
which was
that's
nice.
You know, we're taking a look right there in the white cap. We saw him a minute ago, Bill Callahan, of course, who's really, over the last few years, managed one of, as you said, the best units in the NFL, and that's this offensive line. Now, as we look to this group, there's really only one new face, and that, of course, is center Nick Harris, who has only played 211 snaps in the NFL, but has basically practiced every single day with the starting line for 2 years now, because former center J.C. Tretter, of course, did not practice. So he's got all this experience in between Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, even though it's on the practice field.
Yeah, he's gotten a ton of reps. And, you know, he has, in those 211 snaps you mentioned, initially they were all at guard. The only time J.C. Tretter missed a play was when COVID on Christmas last year, and he started in that game against Green Bay and held up his end of the bargain as a run blocker, but was terrific as a pass protector in 41 pass blocking snaps. Didn't allow oppression. So there is a lot of confidence with him. There's a lot of familiarity. Not only in training camp did J.C. not practice, but often during the weeks due to his knee, he would not practice. So he's gotten almost 3 years of first-team reps without doing it a game, and they're very confident that Nick can step in and do that now and be the man in the middle of this offensive line. And it also helps to be in between, you know, a guy in Joel Bitonio who's been to 4 straight Pro Bowls, is a multiple-time All-Pro. Wyatt Teller, second-team All-Pro, made his first Pro Bowl last year. So that always helps the guy in the middle.
And I love Wyatt Teller's attitude earlier this week. He
Great
said,
guy.
let's just get healthy, let's run the ball, and let's kick some butt. And that was his answer to, how do you flip-flop from Deshaun Watson to Jacoby Brissett? Every offensive lineman wants to run the ball. Let's move outside, though, because I think that if there is any sort of question, which feels sort of odd to call it a question, a modicum of a question, it is probably about the tackles. When you look, Jedrick Wills at left tackle missed 4 games a year ago. Jack Conklin at right tackle missed 10 games a year ago.
And had that ugly injury.
That terrible torn patellar tendon in week 12. Now, Kevin Stefanski has raved nonstop about the way Jack Conklin has rehabbed, the way that he has worked. He joked that he thought he had a cot here in the building in the offseason. Conklin did indeed come off the, was it PUP?
The PUP list, yep.
The PUP list last week. He will obviously be limited when we talk about game action. I'm not sure that we're expecting to see him Friday in Jacksonville.
No.
But the hope is that this is a team that can get more out of both of its tackles moving forward.
Yeah, certainly. The last time that Jack Conklin played a full season for the Browns, which was 2020, he was first-team All-Pro. And that's the second time he's been the first-team All-Pro right tackle in his 6-year NFL career. And you're looking at Jack there, and he's been off the PUP list for almost about a week now. He has not done anything other than individual work. You see, he's not getting even any reps in these one-on-one situations. So I think with Jack, the focus is certainly on week 1 in Carolina, much more so than anything out here. But a good chance you'll see him out here. Is it Taven Bryan showing some strength there against Blake Hance in a little one-on-one drill.
You think he's excited to go back to Jacksonville?
Oh, yeah.
The place where he was, of course, drafted, a first-round pick. And he has a chance to show something. A
little bull rush from Roderick Perry there working on Nick Harris, who got low and maintained his leverage, was able to keep him off the quarterback. But you're right at the tackle. So those are your starters, and I think Jed in year 3 does have a lot to prove. You're your 10th overall pick in the draft. You've got all that talent. Now are you able to get it done? And that's right there. That's a clash of the Titans, Myles Garrett and Joel Bitonio. You love to see that. Myles inside working on the guard. Joel probably saying, just go against the tackles. We're safe here. But the backups, James Hudson, your 4th-round pick a year ago, and even in talking to Joe and talking to Bill Callahan, he's improved his technique, especially when working as a right tackle. And now the other guy that comes back is somebody you know very well from your days, obviously covering Steelers, Chris Hubbard, who's been here with the Browns for a while, has started so many games in the league, so many for the Browns at right tackle, left tackle. Getting him back just as a person and I think as a lineman is big in terms of the depth here.
And it's that savvy veteran. When you think of a swing tackle, somebody who can step in when necessary, whether it's for 1 or 2 snaps, if somebody gets poked in the eye, or if you do indeed need someone to fill in. Chris Hubbard is that guy. And as you said, has played a lot of snaps in the league, and that counts for something. When you think about another spot on this line, are there any young guys that especially excite you?
So what's going to be interesting to me is the backups on the interior of the line, and I do think there is a little bit of a battle of brewing. And so could the Browns end up keeping 10? Absolutely. So you see one of them, Mike Dunn, who people remember stepped in for Joel Bitonio in that playoff win back in 2020 in Pittsburgh and played great against Cam Hayward.
Is that the one that Baker Mayfield said he introduced himself to just before the game?
That was Blake Hance.
Oh.
But then Blake Hance had to come in that game for Mike Dunn and end up having to play, and Blake Hance ended up starting up a bunch of games last year for the Browns at tackle and guard. But so you think about your starters, you got Teller and Bitonio. The backups, Ethan Posick has come in. He's likely the backup center. He's also played some at guard, a former second-round pick out of Notre Dame of Seattle. But, you've got Blake Hance here. You've got Dunn here that you've seen in games. Drew Forbes, the day that Bitonio took that day off, he got some first-team reps. And number 79, he was the Browns' 6th-round pick in 2019, opts out in 2020 due to COVID, gets injured, misses all of 2021 as you look him there. Just a strong guy. He's got good movement skills, and I think that's somebody that is maybe battling to make this team, and that will be interesting to see with Hance and Dunn and a guy like Drew Forbes, Yelda Froholt, who's a former 4th-round pick of the Patriots that's been in our program now for 2 years, was active a bunch last year. It's a lot of depth for a team, and that's something that I keep my eye on, not only who makes the team, as Forbes is able to hold off that rush right there at Tommy Togiai, but other teams need offensive linemen. And we may have too many, and that could be a position where the Browns are able to either restock draft picks or maybe make a swap that helps them at a position where they would consider themselves deficient.
I think that that's a very fair assessment, and I think we are also remiss if we don't mention that despite the fact that the Browns have arguably one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL, they've been getting a little extra coaching the last week or so.
They sure have. And
that, of course, is from the fabulous Joe Thomas, who, tell me what Jedrick Wills said to you about Joe Thomas?
Yeah, so I was talking to him, and I said, what's it been like working with Joe? And he kind of looked at me, he was like, man, he's really smart about this stuff. And I said, yeah, he is. He's incredibly smart about it, not only from technique, but I think one of the things, you've got Bill Callahan, who is, we've talked about, one of the great offensive line coaches.
Joel Bitonio, you're taking a look at, number 75.
Yeah, and Jed there. And then behind, for a second, we had Scott Peters, who's the Browns' assistant offensive line coach, who played in the league and who is a master of biomechanics and a master of, stacking your bones so that you have maximum strength. And so when your thumb's at this angle or this angle, it allows you to exert this much more force. And so they have those two guys. And Joe's a master of everything. But I think what he can help out with Jed is, number one, his technique on his kicks, and that's something that they were working on one-on-one. But number two, and this is applicable to everybody regardless of the position, his process. One of the coolest things I've ever been a part of on Browns Daily was one time, I don't even know how it came up. We asked Joe, what do you think about from the time that the play's called to the time that the ball snapped? He talked for 15 minutes. There was like a 90-point checklist that he went through in his mind. Oftentimes he would know what the guy across him was going to do before the guy across him knew what he was going to do because of his meticulous study and just that process that he went through. And so I think that's one of the things that they've asked him to share with these guys is that process for the preparation that'll allow them to go out and take advantage of their physical gifts.
And because, again, this is so much of it right now is how much of a mental game it is. And even when, on the other side of the ball, when I was talking to Chase Winovich earlier and he was talking about Myles Garrett, he said it's even beyond the physical abilities. It's just the way that he's thinking and his understanding of what an O-lineman is doing. As we look at Bill Callahan here, he is so diminutive.
He is a small.
And
yeah.
Wyatt
Well, those
Teller,
are abnormally large humans, though, to be fair. Like, that's not a fair scale.
Yes, but Wyatt Teller was telling a great story about how, as diminutive as Bill Callahan is, and as someone who is a little bit vertically challenged myself, this is not a knock, but he was saying the respect that he commands and how he's not afraid to get in there with these outsized human beings to tell them when he's unhappy. But I'll tell you a little funny story. He was chatting the other day, Bill Callahan was chatting the other day, how his real dream was to actually be a quarterback's coach. That's what he wanted to do, and how he somehow sort of fell into offensive line. So Bill's son Brian is the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati, and I happened to message him like, oh, we haven't talked in a while. I saw your dad. He said this, made me think of you. And Brian writes back to me, my dad actually has a really great arm, and he was a good quarterback. He's just so short. So it's not just Wyatt Teller that thinks his coach is a little on the smaller side. Even his own son will tease him for that one.
He could have been Doug Flutie, perhaps. Who knows there with Coach Callahan. But it's funny you go through it. He's been a head coach, an offensive coordinator, and now he's the offensive line coach and regarded as one of the very best to do it. And the Browns, I think, feel very fortunate to have him here. And I know the guys would say at times he can get in their face and get after them, but they know that he's making them better. And that's how you get that respect, right? If it's one, you can tune people out who are just yelling at you or who are just kind of in your face and making things miserable for you. But if you know that they're actually there to help you and that you're going to get better, in the case of, Wyatt Teller, let's not forget it was right before the 2019 season. He was traded from Buffalo here with a 7th-round pick for future 5th and 6th-round picks, and now he's an all-pro.
Right.
And he attributes a lot of that to obviously himself, but to the coaching and the work that he's gotten with Bill Callahan.
And look, let's be honest about this, Nathan. It may not be sexy. It may not be as sexy as a big catch that David Njoku makes or a big pick that a safety makes. But the truth of the matter is that this game is won in the trenches, especially in the AFC North.
There's no doubt. And it's funny, we've been talking about Joe, and offensive line is a position in which you are measured by your failures, not your successes. You hear their names. You could have 60 great plays, and then play 61, you miss the block that the quarterback gets hit, causes the fumble, and that's how you lose the game. That's all anybody's going to talk about, not the fact that you went 60 for 61.
And look at this collegiality. Look at how Clowney is talking, how Jadeveon Clowney, of course, defensive end, is talking to the offensive lineman, how Myles Garrett is. And this is how teams get better. It's that famous line, iron sharpens iron.
That's right.
And so you like to see the units working together the same way that we're watching Amari Cooper work with the cornerbacks. And so, in any case, I think we're going to head into a teams period right here. We see Deshaun Watson, we see Jacoby Brissett. Let's take a super quick break and come back, and there's Josh Dobbs. And now Clowney's talking. Is Clowney just talking to everybody?
He's talking to James Hudson right there, probably going through one of the reps where Clowney said, I got the better of you. James like, come on, man. No, you weren't good. The ball was out already. No, I got a sec. One thing I will say real quick, and I know we are going to break, is Clowney's happy. He's very happy here.
Yes.
And a lot of people have talked about it in the building, and I'm sure you've talked to people about that, but he is thrilled to be here. He's very comfortable here, and he feels very happy here. And I think that obviously is a very good thing because that's a talented individual.
And I'll tell you something else here is we talked about Josh Dobbs and Josh Rosen earlier. For many years, Josh Dobbs was in Pittsburgh as the third quarterback.
Yep.
He was extremely well-liked and respected, and I would even say needed by Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger was a veteran quarterback who ultimately played 18 years in the NFL, is likely headed to the Hall of Fame, and he never skimped on saying how valuable he found to having Josh Dobbs in that room. Every single day that I've been here, Deshaun Watson and Josh Dobbs walk off the field together.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about natural ability, obviously you need to do certain things, and if the Browns are going to be in a position where they are without Deshaun Watson for a big period of time, who their third quarterback is becomes their second quarterback matters.
Yes.
But you also think about the backup quarterback, the value he adds in the meeting room, and what he adds on the sideline. I can tell you this, that Ben Roethlisberger was a guy who'd run off the field and go straight to Dobbs, not his actual backup. Okay, what did you see there? What are you thinking? What is there any... Because, again, as we keep saying, he is a rocket scientist.
Well, the fact of the matter is he may understand the game at elite level. Now, he may not be able to physically capitalize on that like
Right.
everybody else can, but there is tremendous value in that, and the quarterback room prepares together.
Exactly, and it's nice to see he and Deshaun Watson already sort of creating
sure.
this bond to some degree.
And he had a great day on Sunday, which I know you would be very happy about.
Sure, of course I am. I'm happy
right.
for everybody to have a great day. Isn't
That's
that how it goes?
That's right.
In any case, Nathan, let's now take that quick break so we can come back for the team period. Welcome back to Browns Live. We've got some team periods to look. I had to yank Nathan's eyes back this way because he's already zoned in there, right?
Yeah, taking a look at Jacoby Brissett here in the Browns' second-team offense with a little check down to Miller Forrestall there. And it looks like what we're getting is twos on twos. We've seen as this camp has progressed, sometimes they're going ones versus twos on both sides, but right now it looks like twos versus twos. And if you're wondering from the D-line perspective, you got Alex Wright and Winovich at the ends, and Togiai and our good friend Perrion Winfrey getting ready to send some tape down to Gerald McCoy to evaluate his performance here today.
Let me tell you, that was a really fun interview. Didn't
great.
you think Perrion
He's
Winfrey
great.
was fun to chat with? And he even barked for us.
He is great, and they're pumping in some crowd noise here. It's a fourth down situation here, about 4th and 5 for the Browns offense right now with Jacoby Brissett in the shotgun. Jerome Ford is left. See if they could get a little conversion here. This is what's tough, right? We're rooting for the Browns, so they can't both win. And there's
the defense.
David Bell.
Oh, how about that? The young rookie out of Purdue who missed quite a bit of time, but seemingly not missing a beat.
So he was great in OTAs. He was great in minicamp. Obviously, all of a sudden one day he has a little pain in his foot. Turns out to be the stress fracture. We're just getting him into team drills there. But that's what he was brought in here to do, to work out of the inside. Now, he can work outside as well, but to work out of the inside and be that guy that Jarvis Landry was. It's 3rd and 4. We need to get 4 yards. I know you're going to win. You're going to get open and make the catch, and he did that just
And
there.
it's interesting because he said that the best DB he'd ever faced in college was Greg Newsome.
That's right.
So I'd asked Greg Newsome just a few days ago, what can you tell me about David Bell? And he said he will catch everything. He said his hands are potentially the best hands he's ever seen.
So when they went against each other, I think he limited Bell with something like 7 catches for 64 yards or something like that. And Greg thought he had a horrible day. Bell thought he had a horrible day because he only had, however many yards he had. And the funny thing was it accounted for something like 33% of all the catches Greg gave up in college, literally, because he just didn't give up the ball at Northwestern. But it's funny that they both thought it was an awful day for them because the other guy was too good.
Good.
It's great.
Okay, so now we've got the ones back in here. Deshaun Watson, you see Kareem Hunt in the backfield.
And that
with
would
Nick
be
Chubb getting the day off.
That's going to go down for the fans. That'll be a big play to Harrison Bryant there, but Myles Garrett will tell you, I believe I got another sack there, as he is known to do.
You know what? Why don't they just play with flags? Can it be a little bit like flag football?
I don't think you even want him getting that close.
Or maybe it could be like paintball. Like maybe they should put paint on Miles's hand.
And if he's touch.
Yes, and if there's a handprint on you, then that's actually a sack. I will tell you this, I'm very excited for Harrison Bryant. Kevin Stefanski told me way back in the spring that he's very excited for the leap that he can make, and I like that he doesn't mind blocking. I like that David Njoku said that he doesn't mind blocking, especially if you're going to see a team that runs the ball a lot early.
And speaking of Demetric Felton, you mentioned that he was in that running back room today, out of the shotgun there with a little inside zone from Deshaun Watson. He's a great young man. I loved him last year. He continues to evolve, and he's a guy that loves football. He's so versatile, but when you get a chance to talk, he's just a wonderful
Look
young
at him.
man.
Nick Chubb is smiling as he talks to him.
Oh, that's big.
It is big. That means even Nick Chubb approves, and now we've got that strict face from Nick Chubb once again. But, the thing about Demetric Felton is I really tried to press him a little bit. What do you like more about each position? And, it's fair enough that he says, well, you get the ball more as a running back,
sure.
But as a wide receiver, there's just not as much messiness that you're dealing with. The hits are different. And so he's very much a silver lining, lemonade, grass is green everywhere kind of guy. And I said, okay, but if you had your druthers, where do you think you could be better? And he said, wherever my team needs me. And he said, I just want to play where my team needs me.
And that's one of the things that Kevin Stefanski loves about him. He's like, he's a football player. That's
right.
what he is. He's a football player, and he's a guy that we can use in a variety of ways to help our team. And now, I would think that he would be in a roster battle with Mike Woods. Now Mike Woods goes down.
And now look at where he is. Now look at
Grant.
where Demetric Felton lined up. He lined up in the slot. Amari
That's
Cooper
right.
is out wide. We saw him limping a little earlier, but clearly it was nothing. Are you sure it was a limp or was it just a swagger?
It was a limp, but he's fine, which is great because we certainly need him to be fine there. As Felton motions to the right. Watson's looking to the right. Throwing down the field to Amari Cooper. Oh, just off the hands. Could have been a big one. And again, Jadeveon Clowney, though, right around the Browns quarterback before that ball got out there. Felton, first NFL touchdown against the Texans back in week 2 on a little screen. And then the cool story, and this is, I think, one of the
week 18.
Yeah, with the Bengals.
Yes.
Right. Sees a guy. It's his birthday. I'm going to score. I'm going to give you a ball. We had
Not
him.
a guy, a kid. Say
yeah,
it was
like
a
16.
young
He was like
kid.
16.
Right. This is my first NFL game. Can
Yeah.
I have a ball?
Yeah.
And Demetric Felton says to him, I'll score a touchdown and I'll give you that one.
And then he scores. And not only does he scores in the dog pound end where the kid is and gives him the ball. And it was awesome. Went viral. Great moment. And that just kind of speaks a little bit to how he is. And it was funny. He was on the sidelines telling the guys that he had done that. And they thought it was crazy that he called his shot.
He called it, exactly. Now we look at Josh Rosen once again, who's got all sorts of talent and really is getting a huge opportunity here. And ultimately, even if he spends the season on the practice squad, remember, the Browns don't have but one quarterback under contract for next year.
Right.
So again, this is really not only about what he can do in camp, but what is he establishing moving forward.
Yeah, and I think for a guy like Josh Rosen, the talent is there. And the NFL is such a mental game that you wonder that when you don't live up to that perceived talent, how does that affect you mentally? So I think this is a very safe environment for him to try to rebuild some of that confidence and hopefully have some success there. That pass didn't find the mark. The defense has been, by the way, in the backfield a lot. That was young Curtis Weaver that was in the backfield there as they run a little toss sweep to John Kelly Jr., who is probably one of the best fifth running backs in the league.
It's amazing the riches that this team has at offensive line and at running back.
Yeah.
And so as much as there are questions about the wide receivers, because they're young, they just haven't done it yet. That doesn't mean that there's not talent. It doesn't mean that there isn't ability. We just don't know it. But I can tell you this, a few days out being here, there are no questions about the depth at offensive line or at running back.
No, and look, we know that we will not have Deshaun Watson for the full season. Okay, what it ends up being, we don't know at this point. But the offense that the Browns will run with Jacoby Brissett will be very similar to what we have seen in the past under Kevin Stefanski. The change would have come from Deshaun Watson because he allows you to do anything you want as Rosen connects there on fourth down to D. Ernest Johnson for an offensive conversion there. But you mentioned Harrison Bryant. You're going to see Harrison on the field a lot with Njoku and two receivers. You're going to see your running back. So while we want to have all the receivers in the world, under this offense, it's not like we're running 11 personnel all the time.
Correct.
So it's still going to balance itself out.
Do you think that this, and now you see again, you see Anthony Walker talking.
There is a different vibe. There is a different, and I think part of the COVID restrictions have a lot to do with this. They're
Yes.
able to be together on the
For
field,
the first time
off
in
the
2
field,
years.
in the locker room, and build those bonds and have that camaraderie, and it is readily apparent on this team. And the thing that's the most amazing to me about this team, and I'm curious to get your take on this, is if you were an alien who just plopped out of the sky into the stands, you would have no idea there was tumult and turmoil and all the stuff going on off the field with this football team.
Off the field in one storyline.
One storyline.
To be fair.
Yes.
That it is one bit of uncertainty about arguably the most important position.
On your team, right.
But separate, yes. I mean, it is sort of amazing. It is very marked, as you see offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Alex Van Pelt talking to Josh Rosen and Deshaun Watson is doing this very regularly.
Yeah,
The Browns have this big TV screen, and instead of looking at plays immediately on a Microsoft Surface or a tablet of some kind, they're looking at these big TVs and assessing immediately what's going on. And that's another thing I personally really appreciate to see. And we're getting all sorts of Josh Dobbs content here. I feel like this is kind of a little bit of a poke. There's Anthony Schwartz, just because we've been having lots of conversations about chess. Did I tell you this, that John Johnson wants to learn how to play chess and has told me I need to learn how to play too?
So my kids, there's a thing in your phone, and obviously you can get lots of chess games, but there's this thing called Game Pigeon, where it's got all these different games. It's just a little app, and they've got, a pool game and, darts and all this. And they even got cup pong. One of the things they have is chess. And so when we were on vacation, we were actually playing a lot of chess.
Oh, you know how to play?
I wouldn't say that I know well.
So you're not going to play with Amari Cooper, is
I haven't
what you're
started.
saying.
No, we got a ball coming on set here. It's okay. All right. I have not. I think the requirement to become great at chess it's intense study, right? You need to know all of the different strategies, have those at the ready so you can have the counterattacks at the ready. I, of course, have watched Queen's Gambit. When I look at the ceiling, I haven't been able to see the chessboards and visualize everything just yet, but it's a fun game, and there is a lot of strategy.
There's a translation. Let's say this. There's a translation of football. It's the same idea of I'm looking at Greedy Williams there. That's not a name, and obviously we're not talking about the DBs today. We'll get to them eventually, but what do you think of what you've seen out of Greedy, especially with Denzel having missed the time that he's missed?
Yeah, he's been great, and he's been getting a lot of the first-team reps. And, I talk to Jeff Howard all the time, Brandon Lynch all the time. They love Greedy. Greedy last year didn't give up a pass play of more than 40 yards. He actually had the lowest quarterback rating allowed when targeted amongst our top three corners, which would have been Denzel, Greg, and Greedy. He was at just around 70. He had a very, very good year. And what the best part about Greedy and looking at him there, you see a big smile on his face. What you don't see is a shoulder harness. He played that entire season last year in that shoulder harness that restricted the movement in his right arm due to that scary nerve issue that he had that at one point thought might end his career. But he's out there. This is a very confident guy. This is the 2 years in a row. Remember, we traded for Odell. We don't have a first-round pick. You get Green in the second round. A lot of people said that was a first-round talent. Then same thing with Grant Delpit. First-round talent. Browns get him in the second round out of LSU. So he's a guy that has a lot to prove because the fact of the matter is he has an opportunity as a starter, and he'll be competing. MJ Emerson's had a nice camp, but if he starts and has a great year, he's going to command a lot of money. And it will be difficult for the Browns to keep him, but that's why they drafted MJ Emerson. That's why they have A.J. Green and Greg Newsome still on his rookie deal. Greedy Williams has great opportunity to go and be a very, very high-paid cornerback in this league and help this Browns defense be what I think it can be, which is one of the best pass defenses in the league.
And we are going to see a lot of three cornerbacks out there.
That's our base. That is our base defense, and I think you're going to even see some wrinkles this year, whereas last year when we were in dime, it was typically the three corners and the three safeties with Ronnie joining John and Grant. You'll still see that, but I do think we're also going to see some 3-2-6 where we go four corners because of MJ Emerson's size where he can be kind of a hybrid safety slot corner big guy out there. And so there's a lot, as you mentioned, chess. There are a lot of ways that the Browns can use their personnel defensively to dictate to offenses.
Which Joe Woods is definitely starting to do already, and we're just seeing that with the matchups and where everybody is playing. Yeah. In any case, let's take a quick break because practice is about to wrap up, and we are getting Joel Bitonio on set. So we'll see. I don't think he's going to bark for us, but we'll certainly get him to do something.
He's the veteran. He's the longest tenured Brown. He's the elder statesman.
We'll ask him about the cadence. How consistent
That's good. I like
is the cadence truly from quarterback to quarterback? Since Joe was moaning about that the other day.
He trained the quarterbacks. We'll see
he
if Joel does.
tried, but he said that was what was so difficult. In any case, okay, on this break, head to Ticketmaster.com. Machine Gun Kelly is indeed playing at First Energy Stadium August 13th, which is just a few days from now.
Yeah.
We'll be right back on Browns Live. Welcome back to Browns Live. We are joined by the longest tenured Brown, Joel Bitonio, who is not nearly as sweaty as Perrion Winfrey was the other day.
To be fair, it's different weather today than it was Saturday.
I was going to make a comment on how hard the O-line is actually working.
No, I appreciate that. If you would have saw me, I lost 10 pounds last practice. This practice, not as much. We got some cloud cover, a little bit chillier out.
Are you still having to work that hard as a veteran, as the longest tenured Brown? Is that weird to hear that?
Yeah. The crazy thing is I've been the longest tenured Brown for like 4 years, which is, a little bit wild. But, I always think about it. I saw Joe here last week, and I remember he was going into year 8 when I got into the league, and I was like, oh, this old guy and stuff. And then now I'm like, I'm going to year 9. Like, I'm really the old guy now, and so it's a whole different world. But you're always working, especially on the line. You always got to put in the time and perfect your craft.
Okay, so let's start with the center, Nick Harris. Does it feel different to you, or since you've practiced so much again with him?
To me, so far, it's felt pretty normal because he's taken a lot of reps. JC had a lot of those days, taking care of his knee, taking care of his body. And so Nick, from his rookie year training camp, has really been thrown in there. So I've played in preseason games with him. I've practiced with him all year round. So he's been in there. So it's felt pretty normal. And he's really, taking command of the offense and, been the leader of that line when he gets up there making the calls.
I'm cutting Nathan off, but when he gets confused, does he turn to you first or to Wyatt first?
Oh, definitely to me. No, Wyatt knows what he's doing too, but it's a group effort up there. But no, Nick's on top of his game. You only have to remind him a little bit, and he's usually on top of it. And him and Coach Callahan really work together to make sure they're on the same page.
Do you ever feel invisible though, being between him and Jed, because they're like such good friends, and that's like they're kind of a two-man game?
No, they are great friends, but it's good because I'm working with both of them, so it works out. And me and Wyatt have our little handshake that we used to do with JC, so we still kind of do that to Nick. So we put him in the middle of us. It's all fun, you know what I mean? Me and JC were like, we always had our little thing. So if they had to deal with that for a few years, I can deal with their friendship.
Has Nick stepped up in the shuffleboard game? Has he who's replaced JC in the big offensive line shuffleboard game?
It's kind of got moved out of our area.
Sure,
So
it's
been
with the employee gym.
Yeah, the employee
with the
gym.
plebes. Yeah, exactly.
So we don't walk back there as much. We haven't really got playing. And JC was the kingpin of all that. He set it up. He made sure everything was going. So we haven't played quite as much this year.
Okay.
Joel needs to introduce a new game, clearly.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go across the line. We've talked about this. I said that the Browns have arguably one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and Nathan got upset with me. He said, no, it is the best.
That's right.
And the deepest, he claimed. Obviously, health is a key. So let's start with Jedrick Wills. What's the big change you've seen in him this year? Because going against Myles Garrett, it's hard for us pedestrian people.
Well, he got in our show today. We got a one-on-one rep with you and Myles Garrett when you're probably what are you doing going over the?
Oh yeah,
is that necessary?
No, it was a good battle though.
I think you got the best of it.
I got him.
The quarterback got the pass.
I got him that one time, and that's all that matters. But no, Myles is such a tough matchup for anybody. So Jed coming into camp, I think he needs to just focus on his fundamentals, which he has, and he's ready to take that next step. He's been banged up the last year, and those injuries he's had last year were injuries where it's like sometimes you can play through them, but you're never fully yourself. So it took him a while, and I think this year he's healthy, he's feeling good, and he's ready to just build on those fundamentals. And as an offensive lineman, sometimes it takes a year or two to really develop, but hopefully he takes that next step. And going against Myles, going against Clowney, it really helps. And sometimes camp is tough because you're not going to win every rep against Myles Garrett, and so there's some confidence that you got to build.
Sure.
And keep working through. But when you do beat him, it does feel good.
I bet it feels fantastic.
Yeah.
You would know. Like we said, we scored that with one for Bitonio. Don't tell Myles we said that.
Yeah. No need to tell him that.
All right, we said we're going to go left to right. So that's Jed Wills. What about that left guard who's in year 9? Is there anything more that he could possibly do?
I really do feel like I've had, 2 of my better years the last 2 years. And I kind of want to keep going. I'm 30 years old now, but I feel great. I think I had a good offseason, and I feel good coming into camp. So I want to keep improving and keep taking that next step. You see guys like Marshall Yanda, I felt like ended his career on a very high note. He played 13 years in this league. I'm only going to 9. So I feel like I have time left in my body, and I want to, help lead these guys, and I want to be part of some winning season. So I'm feeling good.
All right, so then we went to the center. Now we'll go to the right guard, who said this week that it's time for this team to kick some butt and run the ball.
Yeah.
Does he go tell Kevin Stefanski that? That I don't care what pass catchers you have, let's just run the ball?
I don't know. He's not afraid to open his mouth ever. But I don't know if he'd tell Coach Stefanski that. We linemen love running the ball, and that's part of it. But no, Wyatt's one of our enforcers out there. He's going to run, and he's going to pull and hit people and make those plays for us in the run game. And that's what he does. He's come in here and he's working with some new guys over on the right side because Jack's still coming back from the knee. But he's a big piece of our offense, and he's a big piece of what we do. We pull both guards. We're kind of multiple in our scheme, and he fits in really well.
And Jack obviously has worked so hard on his rehab. Do you feel him kind of chomping at the bit to get in there?
Yeah, and I think they're doing a good job. He put in so much time this offseason here, and I know Coach Stefanski made a point of telling us how strong he got comparative to where he was and the work he's put in. And big guys and knee injuries is a tough one, so I know he's working to really push back. They're slowing him in a little bit, but he's going to be ready when it's time to roll, I think.
All right, I want you to peel the curtain back on the great fun that is an offensive line room and all the different rules and such things that happen there. And my big question centers around your participation in the drone video and your cannonball. And I want to know if don't die. Listen.
Sorry, guys.
He's good. Can
we do a Heimlich on a man this large?
Listen, I would try. I love this man. Did you get what was the response to the drone video in your room? Was it shown in a film session? And then was there commentary on the splash, or what we could say was
the lack thereof?
Okay.
Yes.
So at first, a lot of people were giving me a little bit of trouble for my splash, but Joe Thomas made a great point, defended my honor, and said, like an Olympic diver, if Olympic divers go into the pool, are they going to make a splash?
No, but that's their goal. That's the stated goal of their entry into the pool.
And that was my stated goal of entry.
Okay,
Just
all right.
After the fact. It was
What
stated
execution?
after.
What execution?
just a pure entry into the pool. Make it good. Honestly, I had no idea. It was a one-take thing, and I just jumped. I hadn't jumped in yet, and I was a little disappointed in the splash, honestly. But
the form was great.
After
The
looking at
goggle
the
put down.
form,
I mean, business. It was awesome.
yeah, I was ready for it. I didn't know how big the splash was, but I mean, the drone footage was great, and I mean, just having the drone that close to you was pretty cool. Anyway, that guy was a monster on the sticks.
Oh yeah, when I did my little part, it buzzed my tower pretty good. I was like, okay, all right. I'm glad that I'm
Is there
still here.
something else that you're hoping to do this year off the field besides the winning and all of that? Just like that, appearing in a video, a drone video.
I don't know if you can. You know that we're sitting next to advertisement royalty here.
Which is why I asked.
mean,
According to
I don't know
Dan
where you go
Murphy,
from
you have
there.
both the best and worst commercial in team history.
The best and the worst. Is it one commercial?
It might very well be.
I do have a few commercials out there. When you're the longest tenured Brown, some of the stuff works too. But I'm open. I'm ready for commercials. Anybody who needs one, I'm ready to.
Open for business, right?
Pitchman, why not throw
Yes.
that one in there?
That's right. Capitalize on. Why should all the high school kids and college kids have all this NIL fun? You should.
Right.
You're right.
I'm ready
About
for you.
Bitonio, let's go.
You know, if we could bring it back to one other sort of more serious thing quickly, Joe Thomas was talking about how difficult the quarterback cadence was for him. That, he played with 800 different quarterbacks, and everybody had a different one. You obviously are going to, you are most likely going to play with multiple quarterbacks this year. How is that being managed, and how much of a difference does that make?
I think every day we've gotten reps with Jacoby and Deshaun, just to prepare for the, we don't really know what's happening, but
Right.
prepare for, the inevitable. And it's good. You get different reps, and like Joe's told you guys, like, the cadences are different. You work with guys, and for me, every time a quarterback comes into a game or something, I ask him right there, I'm like, what's your cadence? What's your on one? What's your on two? Like, let me hear it, because I'm jumping the snap. Like, that's my advantage over the defense.
So
I can get off quicker,
Yeah.
So I need to know that, and I'm a little jumpy anyway. Like, that's just, what I do. So I need to know their cadence. So it's something I listen to and I work with, and once you practice with them enough, if you get a week of practice with a guy, usually you're pretty locked into it.
Are they fairly close?
Yeah, and our coaches do a good job there. I think they got recording devices on them or something, and they're listening to their cadence every day to make sure they're right on time and they're as close as
Joe
possible.
tried to train him. Joe was like, no, this is how it's going to be. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, Joe would tell him, especially like the silent count and stuff, because he would jump it, better than anybody.
Well, let's talk about the bigger picture of that. Nathan made this point. We watch practice every day, and whether it's Jadeveon Clowney chopping it up with somebody or Amari Cooper and a cornerback, guys really genuinely, even Nick Chubb has been laughing. So we're seeing these guys connect with each other, hang out with each other, seemingly really enjoy being out here. How are you managing sort of this ongoing uncertainty?
Yeah. The guys have been great, and I think it starts with Coach Stefanski. He's just so even-keeled about the situation, control what we can control. And right now we're controlling practice and trying to get better, and honestly starting to prepare for Jacksonville, starting tomorrow. And so all those things matter, and at the end of the day, some decisions can be made that's out of our control. So right now we're enjoying our teammates, and we're working, and we're just trying to be the best team we can be. And, depending on who's the quarterbacks out there, we'll be ready to go.
Does the camaraderie feel different?
We feel good. I mean, I've been here for a long time, but I think the guys in the locker room are happy to be here and willing to work, and I think they trust the plan that we've been put in place.
How much are you going to play against Jacksonville?
I haven't got the call yet, so I don't know what the.
That was a good
what
try
the
right
deal
there.
is.
That was really good.
No, but I really-
that was
Supposed
good.
to try,
Veteran.
right?
He's
I
all-
just tried to
yeah.
slide it in there.
I really don't know. I really don't know.
All right, I'm going to end with two fun ones for you. Number one, I couldn't help but notice before you came over here, you made an immediate beeline for Chef Rocco Whalen. I'm sure that was very intentional on your part, and you're maybe contemplating a great dinner. listen, he's got restaurants all over town and certainly in other states where we play a game. No big deal.
Yeah.
What's that relationship been like? And I know you guys are tight.
Oh, yeah. Chef Rocco's the man, Fahrenheit. John Greco introduced me first and foremost, and, he knows his food. So,
Sure.
So he took me there, and Chef Rocco's always taking care of us. When I did my little Bitonio Bites, segment for building the Browns, I had a little segment there. So since then, we've known each other great, and he has a place in Charlotte, so that's our first game. So the O-line might be taken care of the first night, so we're trying to figure that out.
That would be good. And then number 2, I asked Nick Harris this. You have to go into a 2-on-2 death match with anybody else in the offensive line room. Who are you taking with you?
Oh, man. I'll take Wyatt with me, the guards.
So
the guards.
Wyatt is now unanimous. Now here's the second part. We'll see if it stays unanimous. Scott Peters is also eligible.
Scotty will come with me then.
Okay. So that you both said they both said the same thing.
Yeah.
Wyatt, and then once Scott Peters in the mix. Yeah, Scott Peters.
Yeah.
Joel Bitonio, thank you
What a treat.
for the
Thanks for having
time.
me, guys.
He's selling you out to your other teammates. He's running to Jack Conklin, being like, he didn't pick you.
This so far is unanimous. I mean, it could be just a consensus in the room.
All right, we really appreciate Joel's time. Anybody listening, this is a pitchman, ready and eager. And you ask a fair rate.
This
right?
face moves merch.
Very fair.
Look at it. Come on. Why they put him on the T-shirt.
That was yet another episode of Browns Live. We will see you Friday night from Jacksonville. Take care.